Do you guys know anything about Isaac, Jacob, and Esau? Isaac and his sons, Jacob and Esau?
No, they sound like Bible names.
They are absolutely Bible names. They were Jews, and or maybe this was before the whole. No, they were definitely Jews.
Hebrews.
Oh, Hebrews, yes. So basically, this is Old Testament, and so if you hear anything in this where you're like, that doesn't sound like Jesus, be like, settle down, like it hasn't changed yet. It'll come around to that. So basically, this is when old school rules apply. Isaac, he was old. He was dying. It was in Jesus, way before Jesus' days, and so this is when it was like, oh, you had your kid and you were 72 when you had him, because people lived to be super old then. And of course they did. And in the Bible, yeah, they lived to be hundreds of years old.
I had no idea.
Yeah, people like lived very, very long back then. And so like it was like, oh, Isaac beget whoever when he was 82, or like whatever it is. And Isaac he knew he was going to die soon, and so he's laying in his dying bed, and he goes, to his son Esau, the older one, who was known for being big and hairy and the huntsman. And he goes, Esau, I don't know when I'm going to die. I need you to go out. I need you to hunt for some game and then make me a delicious meal. Bring it to me. I'll eat it, and then I'll give you a blessing. I'll bless you this day forward, And so Esau is like, all right, absolutely. I have to go do this, because this isn't like a blessing of like, Hail Mary, full of grace. This is a real deal blessing. Like it's an actual, think of it like a anointing. Spell. Yeah, this was not I give you good luck. It was like a spell of power, basically. Think of it
because let me ask you, who's the character who's in the bed dying? His name is
Isaac.
Isaac is like tight with God, right? So a blessing from Isaac is de facto a blessing from God in some ways.
Yeah, you need to establish to get the intensity of the story that this is a blessing of like, I bless you to be guaranteed to go on and do great shit and be successful.
That's
not
way better than sneezing.
Yes, it's not a bless you child. Now I die. and so as he tells Esau this, Esau's in there and he goes, okay, I promise you, Father, I'm going to go get that game, make you a meal, bring it back. Rachel, who was one of Isaac's wives, or Rebecca, sorry, who was one of Isaac's wives, was outside of this room, and she heard that. And so she goes to her son, Jacob, and she goes, Jacob, he's about to give away this blessing, and Esau's out there hunting. We got to go right now. We got to get this blessing right now. You go, you get 2 animals from our stock, bring them in here. I'll kill them. I'll make the meal real quick, and then you go deliver it to him. And Jacob goes, that's all well and good. I'd love to usurp that blessing, but problem is, I am a smooth man, and Esau is hairy. Even though Isaac is going blind, he's still gonna recognize me. This speaks volumes to the intellectual capacity of people back in this day.
No, hang on. Let me jump in because I got a theory as to how
ahead.
this could be true. I think that he's blind, right? I think that the father is blind at this point.
Isaac is so old that he's going he's having to squint. He can barely see anything.
He can't see them, so he knows his sons by touch. You take just like remember Ray Charles. He had to get rid of the fatties, right? So when he met a woman, he'd take her hand and he'd wrap his hand around her wrist, not her hand, and he could tell by putting his hand around her wrist if this lady was fat or not. So yeah. I think we got a similar thing here. He's feeling for that hairy arm, and he knows who he's got. It's
kind of like that, where Jacob goes, I'm a smooth man. My brother's hairy. He's going to know. Rebecca's like, no excuses. We're making sure you get this blessing because you're my only kid. And so we're not letting this hairy fucker Esau get it. And so he goes, fine. He goes and he gets the animals, brings them back, slaughter them. She's cooking them up. And he goes, when I go in there, he's still going to know it's me. Like, it's my voice. I'm not hairy. And so she goes, go get 2 goat skins and drape it over your neck and then over your hands. Over your hands.
Yucky.
As if feeling goat skin on someone's hands, whatever. And so he puts the goat skin on. He goes into Isaac's hut. And he goes, Father, I'm here. And he Esau, is that you, my son? You sound of Jacob. He's like, oh, no, it's definitely me. Definitely me, Esau, the guy you told to get food. Oh, well, I did tell you that, and and Jacob wasn't around. I trust you. Come closer. And he touches his hands with his old man fingers, and he goes, my donkey-handed son is here. my hairy
Worf,
son.
you've come back to me.
Yes. So, you're here. Well, all right, give me my food. And so he sits down, he starts feeding Isaac the food, helping him eat, gets Isaac some wine, lets him drink it. And after he finishes it, Isaac goes, all right, are you really Esau? Because even this blind man was not convinced by this masterful ruse. And he goes, yeah, I'm definitely Esau. And so he goes, you sound just like Jacob, though. Like, you sound just like him. Like, I'm blind, not deaf. And he goes, okay, give me one more stroke of the hands. He gets one more hand stroke, and he goes, all right, I'm good. I believe it's Esau now. So he gets one more hands of Esau touch. And Isaac goes, all right, prepare for your blessing. And he says, I want to find the actual blessing here so you can hear what it was. Over. Yeah. So he said, come near me and kiss me, my son. And so he kissed him, his son. He smelled Esau's furs and the huntsman upon him, so he was comfortable giving the blessing. And this is the blessing. He said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you.
Wow.
You cover
powerful blessing.
You cover a lot of bases with that.
Wow.
Those
who don't like you, they're fucked. Those who are tight with you, they get risen up too. Oh. Everything you want is yours. You even smell good, bro. You smell nice. It facilitates an awesome, dope life for him. And so as Jacob is leaving, like 30 yards away, Esau's coming in with the stuff that he just hunted and cooked and made. Like, he fucking slaughtered stuff out there, made a pot, made a fire, made all this shit. And Jacob is like taking those furs off real quick, throwing them behind the hut, and then running back into the house behind his mom. And Esau walks up and he goes into Isaac's tent. Esau goes, Father, arise, eat of this meal I've prepared for you so that you may bless me. And Isaac, with that look on his blind, I've been hoodwinked face, goes, but who was it that brought me food just a moment ago? I've already given your blessing. Who was that? And of course, Esau's like, are you shitting me? Like, are you shitting me? Like, someone already came and get this? Like, there's only so many of us in the world right now. It had to be Jacob. Was it a woman? Was it a woman? No, then it was Jacob. It was fucking Jacob. There's not a lot of us here. So I narrowed it down. So he says to his father Isaac, he says, you know what? Okay, I understand. Like, he's violent, like shaking. He's so mad, but he goes, Father, you must have another blessing. You must have another backup blessing.
Does he have shortage of blessings? He just says them.
That's the thing. He says, Father, please bless me. Please give me a blessing. I need something. I've done this for you. And Isaac, like a fucking Radio Shack, no returns, no matter what employee, is sitting there going, I'm sorry, I can't. There is no more blessing for you. There's none. I can't give it. And Esau's like, this is ridiculous. Like, you can just give me a blessing. And Isaac, apparently being clued into God's like, no, the words have been said. The spell has been cast. Your brother is blessed, and you are not.
You want me to go to God and tell him I didn't recognize my own son that I was trying to bless? You think he's going to give me some more blessing mojo if I tell him I gave the wrong fucking son of mine the blessing? Yeah. Never again will he give me mojo.
He'll never give me another blessing privilege when he finds out that I gave it to literally the only other person that I could have accidentally given it to. 100% failure. And so basically, Isaac eventually says to his son Esau, he says, I'm so sorry, I can't bless you. And he tells him this. He says, what then can I do for you, my son? He's asking, have you but one blessing, my father? And Isaac says, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. And so he didn't only not get a blessing, he got like a spelled out prescription for how much his relative or his ancestors are going to have to serve Jacob, the shitty brother who stole his inheritance from him, that blessing, which is basically the inheritance that you get from a God man.
Hey, that's not where the Arabs came from, is it? Or is that a different Bible story?
This is a later chapter. Yes. I think that might be Cain and Abel you're thinking of.
I thought that was the black people.
Esau and, maybe. But yeah, there'll be more to this story as I continue with Isaac and Jacob in later chapters. But man, like I had to reread it to like get the full story again today because I haven't thought about it in a long time.
Yeah, I remember that.
I would
now.
be
The goat skin.
livid if I was Esau and I found out that I didn't even someone stole my blessing, and then also I don't even get like a thanks for coming blessing. Like,
So
you're
the way
gonna
my
get some
preacher,
success.
the way my preacher explained that is he said he was blind, of course, and that those goat skins, like, it's not just about feeling the hair, but he had the scent, that like the huntsman's scent from those goat skins he was wearing. He smelled like the right son in the hoodwinking portion of the story. And of course, they weren't like goat skins with like goo on the other side, so there's no confusion. You know, it was more like a fur blanket.
Yeah. But man, like, insult to injury.
Not that any of this ever happened, of course.
No, but yeah, if you pretend it does, then it makes it more fun.
This is no different than us discussing that episode of House of Cards, right? Like, and then he fucking pushed her in front of the subway train, and he became the president.
Dude, but this is so much.
Spoiler alert, season 2.
This is so much cooler than House of Cards because the stories are old as shit.
True? Oh, my bad.
Like, it's so old that it's like, I don't know, you can see morality like almost forming. And like the way, like, back then, it clearly was not the God yet of the New Testament, which is like the omnipotent, omniscient, good God who's trying to like help out and shit. Like, this is still when it's like just getting started. This is Genesis 27, I think. I wrote it down. Yeah, Genesis 27 is this story. So it's real early on, and they're still in that mode of like our tribal deity, you know? So even God, like, when he finds out, like, oh, hey, sorry, God, I accidentally gave the wrong blessing. Can you give me another one? Even God is like a fickle tribal God of like, no, you fucked it up. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, he's a smaller God. He's definitely a smaller God. He's not Lord of the universe and commander of the stars. He's more like that guy we're really tight with who does a little magic.
Yeah, he does a little magic.
Let me tell you about 30 seconds of regret there, son.
Yeah.
Men for ages will experience that.
Man, these Bible stories, it's the only way to live a good life.
I still want to hear like some more about Jonah and the Whale, because I don't think I actually ever heard or have read the Bible verses do you
want me to tell you Jonah?
No, because I know the basic story. But I want to. Are you prepared to tell the story of Jonah?
I know enough about Jonah to say it. Maybe you can fill stuff in. So basically, Jonah was one of those prophets, right? Where prophets had a ton of power back then. They were just God's messengers. And so God went to Jonah and said, hey, I need you to go to Nineveh and tell them that literally everything they're doing in their lives every day is evil. And if they don't stop, I'm going to destroy this entire city and kill all of them. And Jonah goes, honestly, there's not a good track record of people who show up in Nineveh telling them not to do this shit. Like, almost like literally, yeah, all of them die. They all get crucified or murdered or something horrible or drawn and quartered. Like, I'm not going to go be that guy in Nineveh. Screw that. And so obviously Jonah is like, I'm running away. I'm running away from God and from home. And so he goes down to the docks, pays a fee to get on there, doesn't fully explain who he is. They know he's a prophet, but they're not of the Jewish religion. And so they don't really care. You know, they're doing their own thing. They say, all right, come on board. He hops on board. They start sailing across just away from Nineveh. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just trying to get away from Nineveh. They get out there in the middle of the waters, and the most heinous storm breaks out, that to the point that even though Jonah is down below, everybody up top is throwing a fit. They're freaking out. They're all like weathered sailors trying to survive, and Jonah's down there sleeping. And so someone comes down there and goes, Jonah, you're sleeping. Like, this isn't, you know, a fucking Ramada 2,000 years from now. You got to get up here and help out. Like, this is getting out of control. Come on. And so he goes up there, and the whole time it's like Jonah is the guy who clogged the toilet, that nobody knows it was him, and he is trying to help clean up the mess, to where he's like, you know, he knows it's him, and he's like, yeah, it is totally gross. Like, who did this? And like trying to clean it up. And he's trying to help. And eventually they're like, they get clued in a little bit more, because they realize, Jonah, you were running away from responsibility with your God. Like, you had to do something for your God, and you said no, and you ran away, and now you're on this boat with us in the ocean. You did that. And Jonah's like, I know, like, hindsight's 2020. And so Jonah is like, I'm so sorry about this, guys. Like, I'm still a man of my God. And so, you know, we'll work on something else. You know, let's throw everything overboard first. And so they start throwing everything overboard that they don't need to survive for like one more day to get to shore. It's still not enough to keep them afloat. And so they start casting lots, which is just rolling dice, to see who is going to be the person that they throw overboard, because they have run out of weight. and they have to get this. It's either one of us dies for sure, or we all end up dying. And so they cast lots, and as they're doing it, Jonah's like, stop, I'm jumping off the boat. This is my fault. As soon as I jump off, you guys should be okay. God wants me, not you. And they're like doing that thing of like, oh man, are you sure? Like, hey, like, please don't. Hey, you come back here, Jonah. Don't you make us twist your arm? You know, as he's like jumping over into the water. And so he jumps over into the water. Instantly, storm subsides, stops. What happens beneath the waters that you don't know, all the people that were on the boat are just, they continue about their merry way, having been basically transitively proselytized to that the Jewish God is the true God. And so
it's scary.
And very, very frightening, which is important in tribal gods. They go on out. Jonah's in the water. God sends a giant fish, not a whale, because they didn't know that whales were not giant fish. They send a giant fish, swallows up Jonah. That's the part that everybody's familiar with. For 3 days and 3 nights, he lived in the fish's stomach. Basically, if you look at ancient drawings of this, you see what they imagined these beasts' stomachs to look like. Almost like Woody's East Sunroom is what one of these things look like. Like just a very nice, spacious, not too many organs, mucking up the works, crowding it. It's just very, very nice. And so he stayed there 3 days and 3 nights until eventually the fish vomits him back up, pretty much right where he left off, as a way for God to be like, oh, look who's back. And so he throws him up. God tells him again, he goes, hey, Jonah, so we're not going to get into stuff. We both know what you did. You tried to run away. Like, I figured you knew I was God and I would find you. Like, this is a lesson that you should have known. You are a prophet. Seriously, though, I need you to get to Nineveh and tell them that everything that you're doing is going to cause them imminent death. I will destroy them if they don't stop having sex and sacrificing animals to Baal or whatever, other gods that they were, golden calves and the like. And this time Jonah's like, I have no option. I gotta go. I gotta go to Nineveh. So he goes to Nineveh. As he gets there, this is almost like a bit of a Shyamalan twist to this story. He goes in, gets up on his pedestal, shaking, so nervous because he knows what happened to every other person who goes into Nineveh, and says, it'd be like going on Bourbon Street and trying and like stealing beers out of people's hands. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, someone's going to, bottle you or something. And so he gets up there, started spreading the word, saying, guys, if you don't stop, God's going to kill all of you forever, and your city will be gone. Miraculously, all of them look around and almost have a communal like, well, we had a good run, didn't we, Nineveh? Like, we really got raucous, quite a bit of debauchery, sex, animals, the whole nine, but let's call it quits. This is the same guy who got swallowed by a whale, according to that other fisherman who, we all trust Jeff, right? So, so then they all actually listen. The whole city of Nineveh takes it to heart and says, we are going to follow God. We're going to get rid of this sin. And so at the end of it, Jonah comes out looking like a real retard because the whole time God knew that Nineveh was going to come around. And it was almost like it was a test for Jonah's faith,
But it does seem like they only came around because Jonah defied God and experienced the whole whale thing and let some Geneva or wherever the fuck people see that God was real, right?
But you can't look that far into it.
God cheated his own system. Like he's up there like, no, I'm not going to fucking make any magic for you to see so you'll worship me. Well, I might this time, though.
Just maybe this time. He's ridiculous like that God. He's always pulling hooks.
Because if he really wanted us to sign on board, right, all he's got to do is show up. Like, I don't even need like a seminar. Like this doesn't have to be like a Tony Robbins thing where it goes on for hours and I'm in the audience like, yeah, he's really winning me over. Like, I need a paragraph from this guy. Yeah. Just make an appearance, be like, float down.
How are you pulling all this out though? Like where, like, do you into Bible study, or did you go to what? How did you just pull that out?
These are things Taylor knows.
I went to a private school, like a religious school, for a lot when I was younger, and so I know all the boilerplate tales and such because I've been told them so many times. Yep. And as I was like in mid-teens, late teens, I got more into like looking into it, trying to figure it out. And so I just like read through the Bible, and you pick a lot of it up when you read it. And then if you actually get an interest in it, it's like, these are pretty interesting stories.
I don't know any of it really, or remember any of it, I guess you could say. So
that
you could be making
you for second most knowledgeable in the podcast.
We had coloring books for this stuff, like you really hammer home these points and the reason.
You could be making shit up for all I know, but you said it was such conviction and like just your like pacing on it and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe that did happen. Yeah. Maybe it did. Maybe it did. Man, fuck, man. I was gonna go lobstering in August, but fuck it. Now I ain't going near the ocean.
He slipped shit in there, and he's like, hindsight's 20/20, and I'm like, they said that. Well, I guess he said, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of modern phrases in the Bible. You guys, I mean, you don't know about.
What do you think?
Tell me about Jesus.
Tell me. Well, Jesus, you could go on forever because lots of tales about that guy. And but yeah, these obscure, more Old Testament tales, you can tell most of them, and if you get like 20% of it wrong, most people have no fucking idea. Like maybe one person will be like, actually, it was a different. That was Elisha, not Elijah, in that story, or something like that. But anyway, that's enough.
Elisha become Elijah?
No, Elisha is Elijah's protege.
Bruce became.
Okay, who was the guy whose name changed when God came into his life? Like he just became another guy.
Saul became Paul.
Okay, thank you.
That's a New Testament thing. Yeah,
I knew the names sounded alike. I was like, they didn't change it much, you know.
Yeah. Saul used to persecute Christians, and then God came to him, changed him into Paul. Then he became one of the great proselytizers, you know, of the era. But the end. Not the end. There's a lot more pages.
There's books and books.
Yeah, God's pretty shitty in that book. Like he's always playing favorites. Like modern Christianity is all about how God loves all of us so much. Like they hammer that home endlessly. God loves you so much, you, and no matter what you do, he'll still love you that much. That's why he gave his only son, just so you wouldn't have to sacrifice a goat to ensure that you get to go to his everlasting kingdom of heaven. That's what it was all about, you know, because you and your evil sin that's part of you. And it's like, yeah, but there's plenty of times in there that he was a real dick, right? Like a petulant child, a guy who like played favorites to the point where like if you saw that happen in politics, you'd be like, this is fucking horseshit. Like who was the warrior king who like you told the story before. There's the warrior king, maybe David. Is it David who sends the soldier off to war so he can get with the guy's wife? Yeah. And God's like, you know, all's fair in love and war, I guess, saith the Lord.
God like shows.
So this is a regular thing you guys do?
Occasionally,
once a month.
Yeah, every once in a while. I'm gonna start doing it more because I think they're fun.
Yeah, Bible stories are good.
That I mean, like there was no like hesitation, no like lull in that story. I was like, oh wow.
Well, he's got notes.
Did I see something?
Not for Jonah. I know you. Yeah, you knew Isaac Jonah notes. But yeah, God fucked up on accident a lot in the Bible. No, you can see like one of his first fuck ups with the Tower of Babel, where everybody on earth was speaking the same language and was working together to build the tower to heaven. And God saw it, and it was almost like he built a custom Civ game. And he's like, damn it, I forgot to set the settings right, and now everybody's getting along. All right, break up the languages, go in different areas. Okay, all right, we're good. And so there's just a part of the Bible where it clearly he fucked up, and they were all speaking French or whatever. And so he had to like invent a bunch of shit and break everybody up, get them fighting. Otherwise, it's just a peaceful story.
The whole way through, God makes mistakes and errors, and he plays favorites, and he's jealous, and he's angry, and he's wrathful, and he's petty to no end when you consider that he's supposed to be a God. Like he's petty for us. He is petty for a human being. It's those are the upsetting parts.
He's a jealous God. Yeah,
he is a jealous, and you hear that, and I'm saying this for you other two's sake. Like these are things you hear in church. He is a jealous God. He is a wrathful God. Like you need to know.
Aren't a couple of them just about loving?
Thou shalt not worship false idols.
Yeah, no other gods, no idols.
Shall come before me.
Don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
It's like honor the Sabbath. No murder, no stealing.
See, now those I can get on board
don't with, adulterate my wife.
It seems like, 2 or 3 of those things are just about loving me more. Like if they are commandments, like 30% of them are devoted to just fucking.
So much of the Bible is
there are fluff in that list.
There are huge moments in the Bible where like everything stops because God doesn't feel loved enough. Like Moses comes down with the 10 Commandments, right? And they're down there worshiping the calf, and he smashes them. There's tons of like just people getting angry and like going like what did God? I always wondered like how did God feel about that, right? Like when Moses smashes the 10 Commandments.
He made new ones.
He didn't he?
Yeah, he made them new. Like, but it betrays the time, because it's like back in the day, you didn't want your tribal God to be the all-loving, all-caring, once everybody is part of your group. Like, no, you want your God to be the insular, containing, we are powerful, we are mighty, fear us kind of God. Because guaranteed those Ammonites over there, their God doesn't want anything to do with you. Their God is a ferocious war God who wants them to succeed and drink your blood or whatever. So like to be tribal like that, you need a God that's fierce. And
see, there you go again.
You got stories about the walls of Jericho and like what we did to what the Hebrews did to the Hittites and all of those. When God decided that you were no good, and then he got behind his people. Like there's just story after story of like cities being smoked, and God will like enumerate like what he wants done. He won't just be like, they're against us, they must die. He'll be like, and their children, and their goats. Yeah. And if you see a baby goat that was born on that morn, and he was born to evil, so you slaughter the baby goat as you would the adult goat. And he's like all this backwards talking that's like a metaphor for kill everything and everyone and salt the fields. Like he's not a friendly kumbaya kind of God. He's like you said, he's a war god, and more often than not, he's all about destroying our enemies or protecting us.
Yeah, but then when you get into like the Eastern Roman Empire with Constantine, and he politicized Christianity as the official religion of the empire.
I wonder
that was post Jesus.
Because Constantine,
it was more like everybody come into our fold and be a part of our team because I have this vast empire, and so obviously it's better if we can try and get everybody on the same page with some of this shit.
From the stories, it almost seems like Constantine was like maybe in like a fever dream was converted for reals though, right? Because he saw the cross in the air, right?
Yeah, before he rode into battle.
And then he rode into battle the next day with the crosses on his shields, I think, and they fucking won when they weren't supposed to win. And he was like, oh, Rome is Christian now.
Yeah.
Then you get then the popery leads from there.
Yep. The papacy.
Not the kind that smells good.
Yeah. Popery.
That's funny.
The kind that fondles children, not the kind that smells nice in your grandma's house.
Do you guys want to hear about Moses?
Oh, yes.
And the story therein? Now, Queb, you come from a heathen place far, far away where you don't follow the scriptures. So,
the what?
Some of this, the scriptures of the Lord, the Bible and shit. I'm just being a dick. Yeah. So this is a very long story, so I'm going to have to abridge some certain parts.
I mean, I know Moses.
You know of Moses. Okay. Yeah. So you know who he is. So Moses was a Jew, and he was born a slave in Egypt. And right in his generation of being born, the Jews were proliferating so much in Egypt that the Pharaoh at the time was like, there are way too many Hebrews being born. If they decide to revolt, we're kind of up Shit's Creek because we've had them here for a couple hundred years and they're really starting to multiply. So what we're going to do is we're going to kill all the firstborn males that are under like 2 years old. And so he sends his soldiers out to pretty much every little hut everywhere, starts killing all of the little babies, pulling them from their mother's teat, all the rest. And Moses' mother is like, fuck, I can't let this happen. So she takes some tar, puts it around a wicker basket, and then puts Moses in there, hands the basket to her daughter, Moses' older sister, and goes, go and put this in the Nile River quick before the guards get here. We can't let them know. So she runs over to the Nile, puts Moses in, and then kind of hides in the reeds and watches. And before too long, dodging crocodiles and hippos and whatever else was there in olden days, makes it to a bank, kind of gets stuck in some reeds near the palace of the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh's daughter comes down, sees the basket, curious, picks it up, opens it up, sees a little Hebrew boy in there. And she's like, oh my God, so cute, so cute. And so she picks up the baby, goes back to the palace, and she's like, Dad, can I keep it? I know literally last night at dinner, you were like, we got to kill all the little Hebrew boys. What is one little baby Jew going to do? Please, can I keep it? Please, Dad, please. He's like, all right, you can keep the one baby Jew, but that's it. No more. And she goes, thank you so much. It's all I ever wanted. And so they raise Moses as an Egyptian prince. But of course, Moses knows the whole time as he's being raised, you know, you are a Hebrew, that's who you are, but we're raising you special, and so on and so forth. And so Moses kind of given better jobs. So while the rest of all the Jews and Hebrews were slaving away building pyramids or whatever they were doing, he was kind of like an overseer. And one day out there on the workforce, he was overseeing an Egyptian slave master berating and disciplining one of the Jews. And this slave master got so out of hand that he beat that Jew to death. And Moses lost his mind and proceeded to go into like a blackout, beats that Egyptian to death. And he stands up and that Egyptian's dead. Meanwhile, like his fists are bloody and he's and all the other Jews standing around him are like, Moses, the fuck? We're the ones who are going to pay for this, dude. Like, you're in a good enough place. Like, we're in trouble. Moses is like, I get it. Totally my bad. But I got a piece because I'm out of here. Like, they're going to kill me. And so he starts going into the desert, trying to get away. That's where the burning bush story happens. I'll tell that very quickly. He comes across the bush. The bush goes, Moses, hey, it's me. And he goes, oh. He goes, oh, no, it's just God. And he goes, oh, all right. And the bush goes, Moses, I put you in that position for a reason. You got to go back and release them from slavery. And Moses is like, they're going to kill me. And God's like, kind of implying like, I'll fucking kill you. And so he's like, all right, well, those are two sure things. At least the Egyptians I might be able to sweet talk. So he heads back. He goes back and meets up with Aaron, his brother. And Aaron's kind of his like right-hand man, prophet kind of dude. And so before any of the plagues and all that start happening, he goes up, up front to the Pharaoh. And they get into the chamber and everything. And God had told Aaron, hey, throw your staff down in front of the Pharaoh if he gives you any guff. And he'll be very impressed by what I'm about to do to that staff. And so they get in there pretty cocky, pretty confident. And Moses is like, hey, God told me you got to let all of the Jew slaves go. And the Pharaoh's like, why'd you even come back, Moses, first of all? And second, no, eat shit. Not a chance. No way. And so Moses gives Aaron like a sideways look. And Aaron throws his staff down, immediately becomes a mighty serpent, a big snake on the ground, slithering around the throne room. And the Pharaoh's like, frankly, that's pretty cool. So he summons his wizards and his warlocks or priests or whatever. And he goes, hey, guys, can you guys do the thing where you throw your staff on the ground and it turns into snakes? And they go, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty fucking easy. So all like 10 of them throw their staves on the ground, and all of them turn into snakes too. And the Pharaoh's, so everybody's got a snake on the ground.
Snake makery.
Snake makery. And so Aaron's snake eats all of their snakes. And then the Pharaoh's like, that's all well and good, but this was not a who can make the bigger snake competition. This was just a who can make snakes with magic competition. So I'm not convinced. Eat shit. I've got way more magic men than you and way more sticks to turn into snakes if need be. And so Moses and Aaron leave humiliated. It's like they got pantsed. So they go out there, and God tells them up front. He's like, hey, I knew that trick wasn't going to work. I just sent you in there to set the stage. But I'm going to send a series of plagues upon the people of Egypt, and I will harden the Pharaoh's heart so that he will not agree to anything after any of them until all of them are complete. And Moses and Aaron are like, why would you tell us that? Why would you let us know that no matter how good a salesman we are now, like you're going to keep them from saying yes until the very end? Like why would you pull the whatever? Because obviously they're not going to be as good a salesman if they know it's going to fail no matter what. So he tells them, all right, go down to the Nile, slam your staff all dramatically on the water. Every bit of water in the Nile and in every pot, every pan, every clay jar in all of Egypt is going to turn to blood. And so he goes down there, slams the staff. Immediately, everything is bloody, except for the water that the Jews had. That's totally untouched. And so starts to smell really bad after like 2 days. And so they go back to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's like, honestly, this sucks. I am fucking thirsty. And I've had nothing but blood for 2 days.
Let's get your iron.
And so Moses is like, all right, well, are you willing to let us go? And Pharaoh goes, one sec, real quick. Hey, magic men, wizards, can you turn water into blood? And they go, oh, hell yeah. And so they turn some water into blood. Pharaoh immediately goes, fuck, that was a waste. Can you guys turn blood into water. And then they go, no, we can't do that. And he goes, oh, damn it. Well, Moses, I promise I will let you go if you turn all this blood back to water. And Moses goes, oh, hell yeah. Swings his magic sword, his magic staff rather, all of it back to water. Pharaoh immediately goes, ha, you fell for it. No, absolutely not. Eat shit. So they go back, and God is like, don't worry, I knew that would happen too. Moses is like, this is gonna be a trend, Aaron. We better get used to this. God goes, all right, next, go strike the Nile again with your staff, and I will summon forth a horde of billions of frogs, and they're all gonna just wreak havoc. And they're like, but what are frogs gonna? He's like, silence! You will do the frogs! And so they go back down to the Nile, slam the river. Immediately, billions of frogs start jumping out, and they weren't just coming out of the river. Like people, like Egyptians were like sitting there getting their rice out of their fucking pot or whatever, and frogs start jumping out of there. And after another 2-3 days of frogs, you know, everybody did some gigging, had a fun time the first day, but you can only do so much. And then after that, they go back to Pharaoh, and they go, are you getting tired of the frogs yet? He goes, honestly, I have an enormous palace, and I've just paid people to stomp on them as they try to get in. It hasn't been an issue. And frankly, Ted, head wizard, he showed me how to make frogs. Stop making them now, Ted. There's enough. There's enough. And so I can do that too. Not that impressed. But once again, my wizards don't know how to get rid of frogs. Do you know how to get rid of frogs? And he goes, oh, yeah. And he goes, all right, get rid of the frogs, and I promise I'll let you go. Moses waves his staff, all the frogs. Okay, this is an interesting thing. Kind of like in Skyrim, where you run out of magicka and you have to wait to recharge. God used too much of his magicka to create all the frogs, and so he wasn't able to just suck them back into oblivion. He just killed all of them. Just all these frogs died. And so the next couple verses in the Bible are like, and they swept the frogs into piles, and did they reek? And like that kind of shit. And so there's just big piles of rotting amphibians. And so then immediately the Pharaoh goes, eat shit. No, my heart feels hard all of a sudden. No. And so they go back. I'm going to lump plagues 3 and 4 together because there's fucking 10 of these. And plagues 3 and 4 were not original. One was gnats and one was flies. And they both basically happen the same way, where God tells them, do this, hit the ground and every mote of dust will turn into a flea that will be leaping. It'll look like Woody's carpet, across the whole land of Egypt. And that's what he did. And then eventually goes back into the throne room, goes, hey, you impressed? And he goes, no, all of my magic men have been making fleas all morning to show they can, but we don't know how to get rid of them. And so swings his staff, all of them go. Pharaoh says, eat shit. No, you can't leave again. And so then they go back to God, and God goes, all right, we're about to turn this stove up to medium. And they go, can we just go to high? We just go to high. Because at this time, they don't know the future, but they do know that God is obsessed with round numbers and the number 7. And so like in Aaron and Moses' talk, they're like, this is either going to 7, best case scenario, worst case scenario, 10. So just keep forging through. So the 5th one is, he goes, all right, Moses, slam your staff on the ground, and every single animal that Egyptians own is going to die. All of them. They're all going to die, except for the ones that the Jews own. And so he does that. All of their animals die, goes back in there, and goes, hey, have you noticed anything about your entire economy, Pharaoh? And he goes, yeah, it's destroyed. It's crashed. Thousands will starve. Millions will starve. We have no more animals. And they go, yeah, that sucks. And then he goes, all right, well, bring all our animals back to life, and then I'll let you go. And then they're like, actually, that's one that we don't know how to do that. Even God can't bring that back. And he goes, all right, well, then fuck you. Get out of here. Sends him back again. Then God goes, all right, they've been very uncomfortable in their lifestyle, but physically they haven't felt the burn. So Aaron, I want you to walk down to the Nile, grab some fine sand on the beach of it, toss it in the air, and everyone in Egypt will be stricken with boils. And so throws it in the air. Everyone in Egypt has boils, terribly. And after a couple days of the boils, shows back up at the Pharaoh's palace. Goes, hey, all of us Jews are looking fantastic out there. Nice olive skin, looking good. Noses for shade. Everything's going well. And he goes, well, for me, it's been terrible. Moses actually asked, he's like, hey, where's all the magic men? Where are all your magic men? And they go, well, actually, they got hit extra hard with the boils, so they called in sick. And so their magic men are out. Like they can't compete anymore with this. Pharaoh promises him, he's standing in front of his throne because he has so many ass boils. It's impossible to sit. And he says, I promise you guys, I promise you, I'm in my head. I know I'm going to say you can go as soon as you get rid of these boils. I promise. And then the boils are removed by Moses. And then immediately Pharaoh's like, I want to say you can go, but the only thing that my heart is so hard. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to, here, listen to this. I'm trying to say, yes, you can go. No, you can't leave. Did you hear that? I'm trying so hard to say, I guess you guys can't go. I literally can't. And of course, Moses and Aaron are like, yeah, because you're getting fucked with by our God, who's kind of a cunt. And God already told them at this point, hey, the only reason I'm keeping this charade going is because I need people in the future to be able to look back and go, man, the Jewish God does not fuck around. Like, and clearly he doesn't. Like, Moses should have went up there and been like, hey, this our God who's on our team made us cut the tips of our fucking dicks off before we could join his club. What do you think he's going to do to you? He's going to butt fuck you. He doesn't give a shit about you and your people. But as soon as the boils are gone, God hardens Pharaoh's heart again, and Pharaoh is forced to say, no, I can't let you go. And so then God goes, all right, you need to go back to the Pharaoh again and tell him to tell every Egyptian that there is a hailstorm coming, the likes of which this country's never seen. And anyone who is outside, who's Egyptian, when this storm hits tomorrow, will die. All of the remaining animals you have, if you have any, will be struck by lightning or hit with hail. And most of the Egyptians were like, dude, this guy's 6 for 6 so far, so I'm staying in tomorrow. But a couple cocky ones were like, oh, what does he know? Osiris will protect us. And so they're like out there like trying to get their animals back up. Hailstorm comes. Everyone who's outside dies. Like these are, Moses was telling them up front, these are going to be like cantaloupe-sized, hail. And they're like, what's that? And he's like, oh, fuck. Like a melon, a fruit. And so after 2 days of that, goes back in. Pharaoh's like, this is ridiculous. Like my entire country's collapsing. Like everyone, I've lost hundreds of thousands of people. People are starving to death. Please, please leave. Just stop this storm. Stops the storm, and like a switch, once again, God like hardens his heart, and Pharaoh goes, no, you can't leave. Can't leave. Nope. And they're like, are you sure, Pharaoh? And he's like in the eyes of someone in a movie who like has their mind controlled, where he's like, please get out of here. Get out of here. No, you can't leave. No, like doing that kind of shit. Very fucked up. Very, very fucked up. And so then goes back again to God, goes, all right, what do you have for him now? What can we possibly do? And God goes, locusts. Locusts. I'm going to send locusts on him. And Aaron and Moses are kind of like, that's your third bug-related
That's what I was thinking.
And I'm confused in this because it seems like 4 times we've already destroyed all of their food, right? Like we kill them all with this, we kill them all with that. What are we doing other than creating craters for us to walk through on our way out of here? Like what's going on? He goes, obviously that part didn't happen in the Bible. You don't talk back to the Jewish God. And so locusts come. Frankly, a lot of the Egyptians were probably happy to see him because they could eat something. Suddenly these frogs were like, bring the frogs back. Like that again. But they ruin all the rest of the crops. Hundreds of thousands of people are starving. Goes up to the Pharaoh, says, can we go now? Pharaoh wants to say yes so bad. Gets rid of it. Pharaoh can't say yes. God forbids him from saying yes. He hardens his heart. So then he goes back again. The 9th one, which was basically the way this like climax worked, is that God was like building, like stroking himself, getting near climax. And when he got to the hail, that was like edging.
Yeah.
Where he was about to come, but he couldn't finish there. He has to get to the round number. And so then he had to like ease himself off a bit with the locusts. And then the 9th plague, which was darkness, where he just makes everything dark for 3 days straight. Day and night, total darkness. The only light is a beacon from heaven on the Israelites' area where they are, because they're still untouched. They're hunky-dory, good to go. A lot of resentment from the neighboring Egyptians, though. And so after 3 days of that, Moses has to stumble back into the palace. He goes, hey, we can't even, Pharaoh rather goes, hey, we can't even grow the crops back because there's no light. Please turn the lights back on, Moses. Turn the lights back on. Moses turns the lights back on, only to see Pharaoh sitting there, this right in his face, going, hell for it again, idiot. And then sends him back out there. And he says, or no, that's a bit later. So he goes back out there, and then God's ready to climax by now. he's ready to come his wrath all over the people of Egypt. And so he goes back, and God says, hey, we're about to amp this up. It's number 10. All the firstborn children of every Egyptian will die. All the firstborn animals of every Egyptian animal will die. Aaron and Moses, like, there haven't been any fucking animals in 5 plagues. Like, they're gone. And so comes back. There's like way too many verses of God going to Moses and saying, all right, need to make sure the Israelites get this kind of goat, get this kind of sheep, do this, don't eat the bones, make sure you put the right amount of blood on the threshold of your door. And so the point of that is that God was going to send the angel of death to come into Egypt. And any house that didn't have blood of a 1-year-old male pure lamb or goat on the top and sides of the doorframe, anyone who had that would be passed over. That's why it's called Passover for the Jews. You know, they're celebrating not being murdered by their vengeful God. And so angel of death goes through, murders every single firstborn child in all of Egypt. The way they describe it in the Bible is that there was not a home in Egypt where someone had not died. Every house in Egypt, because it didn't matter, like if you're 50 years old, but you were the oldest of your kids, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead too. Like if both your parents were firstborn, sorry, little Egyptian boy, you're dead. Like your parents are dead and your older siblings dead. And so it describes the wailing for a while in the Bible. And it says it was a wailing unlike anything that had been heard on this earth before. A wailing, a gnashing of teeth, and for the sadness that these people felt. And it wasn't the elite of Egypt. Every Egyptian, from pharaoh to slave, because they had more than just the Jewish slaves. And so some poor fucker from Babylon, who was also a slave, it's like, oh no, not my kids. Or like, wherever the fuck he's from, up to Norway, grabbed someone, brought him down. Doesn't matter. Go back, and they're like about to enter the palace again, and Pharaoh like comes out on his stoop or whatever, and is like, get the fuck out! Get out of here now! And they're like, are you serious? Are you for real this time? No takes his backsies, and he's like, yeah, for real. Get the fuck out of here. But what Pharaoh had forgotten is that he was not only dealing with God, but also with Jews. And so the Jews said, well, before we get out of here, we're going to need some gold and some silver. Some spices to, make sure we're comfortable. And he's like, whatever, dude, whatever. Everyone, give them whatever you have. Give them all the silver and gold you have. Get these fucking cursed people out of here. Out of here. So they all load up in all their shit, and they head off into the desert. And that's where this chapter of the story ends, prior to the whole Red Sea thing.
Yeah.
So that is a very abridged version of the Bible. And it's mostly true.
It's absolutely not true at all, because there were no Jewish slaves in Egypt.
No, I'm saying according to the book, it's pretty true. I mean, the story I told was pretty
accurate to the Bible. I see.
One of my favorite things about Taylor Bible Time is that later on, a couple weeks from now, maybe even a couple months, I will get a call from my parents who fact check it and tell me like, yeah, you know what? It wasn't that God was edging and about to come during the 6th plague. And like, I remember you described like, I don't know why they mixed up his, goat hair with it. My mom was like, he was a very hairy guy. I think Taylor didn't exaggerate that quite enough or whatever. But, yes, I can't wait to hear my mom try to take that apart and tell me where you went wrong.
I've seen the movie. Have you seen the movie?
Yes, the Disney movie?
Exodus, Gods and Kings. Exodus, Gods and Kings. So they attack the situation of Moses in 2 ways, where it's the religious people, they go, oh, it's God has done this. And then you have the scientists which go, well, technically, if you take all the frogs away, obviously there's going to be a lot of flies still alive. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. At first, I thought you guys were like pulling a prank on me with this whole Bible talk.
This is a tentpole topic around here.
I've like never, in my few times that I've been on PKA, I've never experienced Bible talk.
Oh, it's highly requested.
It's one of the most highly requested topics, not to jack myself off.
No, I'm a huge fan of it, because Because like after you hear a ridiculous story like that, you have to stop and remember that there are billions of people who believe this and are willing to kill and die over these facts.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like if you care about like reality, just know there were no Egyptians in bondage in Egypt ever, and if there were, they certainly didn't build any of the pyramids or the structures.
Well, they were never slaves, right? That's what the scientists and geologists.
It was professional artisans.
Were never slaves.
These were highly paid craftsmen who actually constructed the things you see in Egypt, all of the pyramids and such. I mean, you could tell that by not just the quality of the craftsmanship, that this was a well-trained
housing,
person, but also the housing they lived in, the food that they had available, the implements, everything down to the quality of the pottery that they had in their domiciles. These were well-paid artisans of their time who created those giant.
If Woody's mom is going to go through and fact check me, more important than the facts of the plagues and he actually didn't slam his staff down there, blah, blah, blah. The actual thing to talk about in that story to do with the religion of Christianity or Judaism is that the Lord repeatedly and continually forced the Pharaoh to harden his heart. You can't give someone free will and then force the... What it was is like, when you're dominating a game of Civ or Age of Empires and Queen Elizabeth is like, oh, please let me retire with some dignity. And it comes up as yes or no, and you go, no. And you just burn them down. Like, that's the fucked up part about it, really, as far as like Christian canon, is that God directly intervened, changed the ability to make a decision, thereby infringing on his own gift of free will in order for his own macabre story to play out.
Yeah, it's
so
like
if
when
there's anything she takes qualms with, then
when we used
that's
to play
what I'm interested to hear.
when we used to play Call of Duty 4 and we'd be destroying someone in domination and the game's about to end, so we let them capture 2 flags, so the game will just keep going on for a while and we can torture them even more. Yeah,
that's exactly what God was doing.
That's exactly God is a hateful 14-year-old COD player apparently who just likes playing with his food.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Old Testament God's a real piece of shit.
Rough customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you told the one before, is it Locke? He let his daughters get raped, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
he was about to let them get raped.
Yeah. But then he went ahead and fucked them himself. So, decide which of those situations is more out there. Well, he was drunk.
Oh yeah. Jeez, Quinn, why are you so judgmental?
Lot was a pretty devout guy. It's interesting that he was so devout within a city of those who were so the opposite. It's almost as if the story was completely made up and meant to be a parable.
No, I'm pretty sure it's true.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. I like whenever some like historian, air quotes, is like, we believe we found the city of Sodom and the city of Gomorrah. It's like, unless it literally says Sodom on like a big placard that you found outside this motherfucker, like ye old Sodom, like Sodom, house of sodomy and more. Like no, you just found an old fucking city that's been abandoned and destroyed or something like that. Like I hate that so much. Remember when people were always finding the ark, or not the ark, but the Noah's Ark.
Yeah,
Noah's Ark.
You're right. They found the ark like 4 times in my teens.
Yeah.
I was like, but which what? Like that one has metal in it. Like
fun story. One of my good friends, still good friends, his mom was like super religious, right? So she would go to church, and then the pastor is like, you're not allowed to wear jeans. You can only wear like dresses and stuff like that. And she's like, okay, and then does it, right? Throws out all her jeans. And then he comes over and he goes, your son, yeah, that computer of his, it's the devil's inside of him. Demons are inside of him. And she like believed it and was like, so what do I do with his computer? And he's like, give it to me. I'll make sure that the demons, they go away from your son. Yeah. And she would come up to me and be like, Jordy, like, you know there are demons in here. You don't go to church. I'm like, listen, like I was 14, 15. I'm like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. I respect you believing in it. And, I'm down to have a conversation. But please show me any proof that any of these stories that you just told me is actually real. And I will research it. And then obviously I'm super open to actually believe in something. And she goes and links me this shady article on like Yahoo News of like Noah's Ark has been discovered in Syria or something like that. And I'm like, what? It's just like it's not it's fake. It's like prove
you know
it.
how,
Like,
how boats made of wood stay together for 5,500 years?
No,
in
that
the snow?
doesn't work that way. And then the story ends pretty funny. Well, sad at the same time. She realized at one point, she's like, well, the son's like, well, I want my computer back, and she's like, well, okay, I'll ask for your computer back. And then it turns out that the pastor obviously sold it and cashed in all the money and was doing it to like 20, 30 other people. And then she's like, fuck this shit. So
Can I see your
I'm out.
iPhone?
Did she become
As
less?
I
This was
suspected,
before iPhones.
It's full of ghosts.
Did she like move away from the church because of that experience?
Yeah.
And
Because
did she move away from God too, or just the church?
I think she's still religious, but she's like wears jeans now again. So
One step in the right
Oh,
direction.
she's a moderate.
not
Okay.
that crazy. Yeah.
She's a pants-wearing Christian, one of the good ones.
This
Samson
segment.
is an Old Testament figure. And most people think, I know Samson, can't cut your hair, gets with Delilah. Nay. They don't know the whole story of Samson. And
Strong man.
it's longer, but there aren't necessarily more lessons. You got to look for them. So it begins in the prequel stage of Samson, going to his parents. So as with many things for the Jews, they did something that pissed God off, and God said, fuck you, you're going out of my presence again, go be slaves to some other people. And so there some time into that, all the Israelites and Jews are really upset and just waiting for that next judge or prophet to come down and pull them out of this muck. And so one day, this guy named, the fuck was his name? Manoah. We're going to call him Mano from now on for short. Mano and his wife were just a random poor couple of Jews, very poor Israelites. And one day an angel came down in angel form to Manoah's wife and said, hey, you're about to give birth to someone who's going to totally change the direction of this tribe. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. And he says, yeah, it is. Now, all you got to do is make sure you don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat any grapes, nothing fermented, no mixed fabrics. You're a Jew, you know the rules. She goes, yeah, I know. I got it all planned out. Just don't do any of that, and then you'll have a son, and he's going to do some fantastic things. Angel poops away. She goes back to her husband, Mano, and is like, you will not believe what happened. And I'm going to read in the NIV Bible, the New International Version. This is exactly what she says, and I'm going to say it in Trump's voice because it makes sense. A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome. That's what she said in the Bible. She goes up, says it was very awesome, and the husband goes, oh my God, so all you got to do is like not drink or smoke or anything, and then this kid's going to come out good? She goes, yeah. He goes, all right, well, like, what do we do afterward? Like, when the kid's here, how do we raise him then? She goes, oh, I didn't ask him that. Shit. Like, should we call him back? It's like an angel. You can't call him back. And so he goes to the temple, prays, and goes, please send someone else here and tell us how to raise the kid. Like, we get it. Don't make a little fetal alcohol syndrome baby. But after he's born, how do we make sure he becomes a good dude and does all the things you want? And so a few days later, a man, regular old-looking man, really an angel, comes down the road, talks to Mano, goes, hey, the Lord pushed me to come to you and tell you that all you have to do for your child is make sure that a razor never touches his head or any part of his body. A razor is in like shaving, removing hair. And also make sure that your wife abides by all those rules I said before. And he was like, okay, yeah, it's not that helpful, but you are just a guy. You're not an angel, so I guess this is how God wants me to figure it out. Okay, whatever. He doesn't know this guy's an angel. He goes, well, at the very least, let me be hospitable. Stay with me for dinner. And the angel, who's not letting on, goes, no, I don't want to stay for dinner. He goes, I insist. You must stay for dinner. And the angel goes, if you're going to, or I have a goat. We'll kill the goat and we'll eat it together. He goes, I'm not going to stay for dinner, but if I do stay, as you're asking me, take that goat and sacrifice it to the Lord. And Mano is like, oh yeah, like this goat, like my only goat. You want me to burn my own? Do you look around? We don't have a lot of goats. We've got one goat. This is our food for the next month.
Can't be fiddle fucking our goats to death.
Yeah, no, we have one goat. Like, I was planning on eating this for a while, but yeah, I guess I'll just burn it. I'll just burn it for God because you're telling me to. Have you looked around my house? Have you looked around my 1-bedroom, dirt floor, thatched roof house? Do you smell salmon in here? We don't have any fish. That's my wife's Bronze Age pussy you're smelling. It's horrible in here. We have nothing to eat, and you're asking me to sacrifice this goat and burn it to you. And so he goes, he burns the goat begrudgingly. And he also burns some grain with it because the Lord is notorious for needing a side. And, after all that is burned, the guy just leaves. They're hungry. And 9 months later, out pops happy Samson, ready to take on the world. And as with most Bible stories, it doesn't talk about the childhood. It goes straight to the adulthood of the character. So now we're like early 20s, like pussy slaying Samson. Like he's got long hair like a rock star. And so he's
Fabio.
He's perfect. He's Fabio. Picture him like that, a little more matted and nasty. And a beard, because you can't shave anywhere. And so he is
no manscaping.
Yeah, and so he is
Oh God.
he's trolling around this city of Timnah looking for Strange, and he comes across this lady, and he's totally infatuated with her. He fucking loves her. And so he goes back, but she's a Philistine. That's the problem. She's not Jewish. She's a Philistine. And they are very much in competition with each other right now, these two tribes. And the Philistines are much stronger and larger. And so it's not something you want to tango with. And so he goes back to his family, and he goes, hey, I found this woman. I want her as my wife. So I need you to go there and get her for me, because that was back when women were treated appropriately as property instead of like having to pretend to care about what they say. And so now they go, the dad goes, oy vey, son, you're going to go and find someone who's not Jewish? My goodness. No, there's plenty of good women right around here. Look at Rachel. And he goes, Rachel, she looks like a fucking sundial with that schnoz. No, I'm not going for Rachel. I'm going for that Philistine woman, that sexy bitch right over there. And so the dad goes, okay, yeah, I'll back that. He goes back to the family on the way. Goes back to the woman's family he's interested in order to relay to her that, all right, wedding's on. And on the way, he's by himself. A lion leaps out of the brush, comes to attack him. The Lord imbues him with, that strength that he has from his hair, and he tears the lion apart, like the way you would a goat, was the example in the Bible, which apparently is like, you ready for goat? Like, no. And so he tore the lion apart, left it there, and miraculously, like, if I killed a lion, that would be in my Tinder bio, that would be in my Twitter bio, that would be my permanent Facebook status, it would be on my resume. Everyone would know. He didn't tell anyone. And it was weird because he was a braggadocious fella. And he continues on, tells his woman, hey, wedding's on, I got to go back to my people, grab my posse, my friend's family, and then we'll meet you back here, have the whole shindig. So he heads back, grabs his family, and as they're moving back towards the wedding party, which is they're going to the woman's place in the Philistinian territory, I don't know what it would be called. And on the way back, they see that same lion carcass. And the lion carcass is decomposed a bit. And there are bees swarming all around it. And so Samson, in what it can only be described as an insane person's maneuver, goes over to the hollowed out carcass of this lion where the bees are, dips his hands into the carcass, and retrieves 2 big old handfuls of honey. And so the rest of the walk there, he's eating honey out of his hands on the way to his own wedding. And to set the stage, this is a man who lives in the year 1, who has never showered. He has never been allowed to cut a hair from his head, and he's eating honey out of his hands on the way to his wedding. There's never been a stickier human being in history than Samson on this walk. It's like, it's not bad enough that you have, I lived 500 years before Christ, shits every day. You're going to eat 2 handfuls of honey on the way to your wedding? You goddamn maniac. And so he eats his honey. It's disgusting and sticky by the time he gets there. They get there, though, and it goes off without a hitch for the most part. Like, Samson's dad was, like, pissed because he was like, you're going to associate with these uncircumcised folks? But Samson, like, convinced him. He's like, Dad, believe it or not, it never crossed the minds of these savages to bring a sharp stone to the genitals of young boys. It's like, that's horrific. It's terrible. It's like, I'll get over it, And so they get over it, and they have the wedding. It's a nice little occasion. And after the wedding, they're all sitting around in a powwow. And Samson goes to the relatives of his wife, the Philistines, and goes, hey, I'll tell you a riddle. And if you can riddle me that,
I'll give you 30 outfits of linen. If you can't figure it out, though, you got to give me 30 outfits of linen. And they're like, seems like a pretty reasonable thing. All right, let's do it. And so he tells the riddle of, and I read it, out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. Now, obviously, this was him talking about out of the eater, the lion, honey comes, that's sweet, and out of the lion, something strong, something sweet, like that kind of shit. But it's cheating. You can't make a riddle based on an experience that only you know about and then expect people to understand. Like, that's like the self-actualization of a 2-year-old, where you think if you saw something, everybody's seen it. And everybody will get it. Like, that's retardation. So my contention is that he was cheating.
Okay.
Yeah, he was cheating from the start, is my contention. Samson was. He was giving a riddle in bad faith.
It's like playing peekaboo and covering your own eyes.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Woody, I've got an interesting riddle about my 7th grade birthday party. Now, no one needs the details or the tendrils going out that'll give you hints. Like, it's not fair. And so he gives this riddle, and nobody can figure it out because they weren't there. And so, like, 2 days later, the family of the woman go, hey, you got to get this fucking riddle, because I don't know if you've looked around, but we're not exactly running a fucking courtyard Marriott. We don't have linen to hand out. Like, we took this assuming we know the riddle. We're pretty good riddlers, but we don't have any linen. We're going to be humiliated and embarrassed, and we're not really on friendly terms with the rest of their tribe, just this family now. And so she goes, okay, I'll go do it. And so for the next 5 days, the word nag is used in the Bible. She nags and cries and bitches for so many days in a row that eventually Samson on the last day goes, yeah, okay, the answer is the lion. The answer is the lion and honey inside it, okay? Please, oh my God, week one of our marriage. Golly, I should have listened to my parents, you dumb whore. And he's furious. And 20 minutes later, she leaves. 20 minutes later, all the Philistines come back, and they're like, Samson, we figured out your riddle. And he's like, did you? Did you figure out my riddle? What is it? And so they told him, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than lion? Which apparently was the 2 questions that aren't a riddle, or the answer to a riddle that was 2 questions that weren't. Nah.
It's Jeopardy.
These ancient people didn't understand what riddles were.
He answered the question. Anyway.
Yeah. And so they give him that, and he goes, cheated. You cheated. I just gave my wife that answer, and she went and gave it to you. And so Samson stood up calmly, and then he murdered 30 people. With his bare hands, he went around the camp, and he murdered 30 people, and then he left, saying, someday I'll get my vengeance. So at this point, Samson is a terrorist at this point. He does not take kindly to those other folks. And so from there,
Samson is Jewish. Home. He killed the terrorists. Correction.
Yeah. He spends some time like mulling his own shit over in the desert or whatever while everybody else goes back. He eventually returns home and goes to his dad. Hey, I want to talk to my wife. He goes, your wife? That Philistine woman who lied to you and you killed 30 of her family members? No, when I was leaving, I said I gave her to someone else. Like, no, that's not your wife anymore. And Samson goes, God, fucking bullshit. Well, then I definitely need to get my vengeance. She's dead to me. And so he does what any sane person would do. He's got to get vengeance on these Philistines. They're stronger. They're more powerful. What do you do? What you do is you go into the woods and you catch 300 foxes. 300 foxes. Have you ever tried to catch one fox? It's fucking impossible. You're not going to catch 300 foxes. It's insanity. And so he catches 300 foxes. And then he does another sane thing. He takes them 2 by 2 and ties their tails together. And then once he has 150 paired off fox pairings, very hard to manage. He puts torches in the night and ties those into the tails and lights them and releases them all over Philistine territory and all of their crops. And so the next morning when they wake up, they're like, there's a lot of burned foxes and no crops left. And there's a torch in all the foxes' tales, and this is very methodically done. A serial killer is in our midst. Is this that terrorist Samson? Is this that terrorist Samson that we're all so scared of all the time, with the strength of 10 men and the temperament of a 1-year-old? Like, is this the man? And so they're terrified of Samson because he just destroyed everything. And so the Philistines go back, and they go to the woman that he initially married, the Philistine woman and her father, and they're so mad they just burn them too, probably with the last remaining pair of foxes running around. And they burn those two to death. And then I'm trying to remember what happened here. Sorry. It's so in depth.
He couldn't.
Oh yeah, I remember. No. Now, yeah, you couldn't just throw torches.
No, he had to tie.
You didn't want to throw a torch when you could swing 2 foxes around like a madman and hurl them. But and after he did this, after he did all the fox shenanigans, he went and retreated into a cave in the wilderness and just hung out there. And so after that, all the Philistines, like a few thousand of them, are like, "This is horse shit. We are marching to the Jewish camp of Judea, and we're going to make them give us Samson." So they march over there, and they go, "Where the fuck is Samson? He just tied a bunch of hundreds of foxes together and burned our crops down after killing 30 of us for cheating on a cheat riddle of his." And they go, "We don't know where he is. Frankly, we'd be happy if you caught him. He's causing a lot of mischief, and he's not reflecting well. He's terrible PR. We're a very small tribe, and he's causing a lot of mischief out there, and people keep coming up to us." And they go, "Okay, well, we believe you. We're going to search anyway." They search. They go, "All right, we totally believe you, but we're way stronger than you. So while we're here, we're just going to conquer you." And they're like, fuck, we should have seen that coming. And so they got conquered right there too. And so then 1,000 Jews from Judea go to that cave, and they go to Samson, and they go, "We got to turn you in." And Samson's like, "You couldn't turn me in if you wanted to, but here, how about this? You tie me up, and you bring me back there to those thousands of guys, and you say, 'We got him. We got the guy for you. He's right here.' And then I'll burst out of there." And then they go, "Yo, dude, that's an incredible idea." And then like Noah, you can throw him a sword, and Ezekiel, you can throw him a shield. And Samson goes, "No, I'll use the jaw of an ass." And then they all go, yeah, whatever you want to do, man. Just remember, like, we're on your team." And he goes, "Yeah, jaw of an ass. This is a good idea." And so they take him over there, bound up, and they get him close enough to the Philistines, and they go, "Here he is." And he gets close, and he bursts out with his ass bone jaw and smashes 1,000 of them to death. 1,000 people he murders with the jawbone of an ass.
Well, he was right.
1,000. Yeah. And as they're watching it, Ezekiel's like, "Well, we appear quite the fools." he really didn't need the sword and shield. And so after he's finished massacring 1,000 people dripping with blood, not like in movies like Braveheart or Predator where there's like drips of their own blood a little bit. I mean like half a second after you get out of the pool, that level of drippage in blood, there's a snail trail of all blood types smeared around this land. And he comes back up to them, and all the Jews are like, "Frankly, Samson, half an hour ago, we were ready to turn you in. Never before has there been such a political turn in an environment. Raise your hand if you don't want Samson to be in charge." Everyone wants you to be in charge, Samson. And so Samson, dripping with blood, decides he's going to be in charge. And so after that, though, he decides he needs a little more, just a touch more vengeance.
Jesus Christ. Oh, they didn't even cheat on a riddle, for fuck's sake.
Dude, that's all throughout the Old Testament. They'll be like, and someone of the Ammonites stole a goat. And the Jewish Old Testament God is like, "And he smote 50,000 of them for it." And it's insane. But now gets to the point that people are more familiar with. Samson and Delilah. So a little more time passes, and he falls head over heels for this lady Delilah, and she's a fox. Like they were like back in the day, they were the Brangelina of the day, and so it wasn't like a relationship. Everybody fucking knew Samson was plugging Delilah, and so the Philistines go to Delilah and are like, "Hey, you got to give us info on how he gets his strength, because we got to get rid of this. We're rightly looking for vengeance here. We've lost thousands of people to this madman. Look at that. We don't know where he is. We're whispering right now. He's terrifying." Like, and so they basically convince her to be on like a little secret agent. And so she goes to him one night after they bang, and she goes, "Samson, what gives you all your strength?" And he goes, "Well, if they'd only known to tie my hands with 7 unused bowstrings, they would have never had that problem. I would have been as weak as any other man." And so during the night, she tied his hands with 4 unused bowstrings, woke up to, or 7, I'm sorry. 7 unused bowstrings, and the Philistines are there waiting, ready, anticipating picking him up, and he wakes up, bursts out, and murders a dozen or so of them. You know, this time in self-defense, fair enough. And then I guess they go back to bed being like, "Why I oughta," you know, to Delilah. And then the next day, he tells her this rinse and repeat. You know, why'd you lie to me last night? And he doesn't ask, "Why'd you try to have me murdered and captured?" He just goes with it because he's an idiot. And he goes, "All right, well, if you use like brand new rope, that'll get me. They've only ever used rope on me. That's why I can burst out." And so they do that. Once again, bursts out, and the 12 anticipating and terrified Philistines.
They're like, "We know what happens here, guys. We didn't want to be here."
"Oh, we're group 2? It's always group 3 or 4 that gets them." Like, and that's,
we saw what you did just now. I don't.
Oh.
The bodies are still here.
Samson, I told you to move them. And so he murders all of them. Then I guess Delilah once again gets off scot-free. The next day he tells her, "If you braid my hair in this way, I'll be helpless." So she does that. The third group of a dozen or so Philistines stand up. He's like, "I'm not even tied up this time." Wah, 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 wah. And it beats the shit out of him, kills him. And then finally she badgers him enough that he goes, My hair is the source of my strength. If you cut it off, I got nothing." Jesus Christ, will you shut the fuck up? Samson has terrible choice in women, but it's good to see some things never change. So the next day he's sleeping, or next evening he's sleeping. She snips his hair off. Then the Philistines come in, and he stands up to fight him, and he's just a normal dude now. He doesn't have his superpowers. God said, "I'm only interested in lustrous locks. You know, that's all I'm in for." And so they come in, they pin him down, they immediately gouge his eyes out and blind him, and so he can't be a threat anymore. And then they drag him off, and they give Delilah all sorts of sweets and spoils. And so then they take him blind and beaten and a regular man, and they put him on a grain mill where you're just like what they would use donkeys for. Like, you're just pushing this thing around and around and around. And he does that for months. And I guess everybody forgot, let's give this guy regular haircuts. Because a couple months later, there's a big Philistine celebration, much similar to when we caught Bin Laden. like everybody's like, "Yeah, we got him, yeah!" Like, they're all in this big, beautiful building, all the Philistines. There's 3,000 people on the roof and all the elites underneath. And they say, "Bring out Samson, bring him out, bring out this murderer. And they're jeering at him because everyone there has someone they know who's been murdered by this animal. And they put him up there, they throw stuff at him, and they go, "Yeah, get out of here." And he collapses. You know, his hair's gotten a little longer, though. And he stands up, still blind, and he goes, "Please let me lean up against a pillar." And so they put him up against a pillar to lean there. And he summons God and says, "God, with my last act, please let me bring this down upon the Philistines." And so he puts one hand on one pillar, one hand on the other, and he uses his last bit of strength and collapses it and murders another 5,000 Philistines with his final breath.
Well,
and this is the story that I use to guide my entire life. In the words of Kyle. Yeah.
Seems just.
Yeah. Tucker wasn't a believer before that story.
No,
but now,
the first 5 minutes of that story, I was like, I'm bored. And then Samson, he really just kept going, huh?
I wonder if after about 7,000 murders, if he felt like he had gotten revenge for them cheating on the riddle yet.
I can't believe somebody would cheat on this riddle. Yeah, if there was ever a time to think, man, the Bible is what a wonderful story that could be animated and made into. It's now. I want to see an animated Bible series.
That and Job.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh, was it?
It was a
I'm
movie,
sure.
a live action movie. I saw it.
I don't want a live action.
I don't remember
movie.
quite like that.
I want
Well,
Old
sorry that one
Testament
took so long,
animations.
but I
No,
wanted
it
to
was
start from the
great.
birth.
You made up for it. You made up for it. It really came to fruition. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, and I hope you learned something.
I mean, I knew Samson is strong ass dude and killed a lot of people, but I was unaware that he literally slaughtered thousands of people with the jaw of an ass, which is just not like out of all of the weapons that you could kill people with. That's a like you wouldn't you get tired around 200, 250? You're like, damn, I got 750 more of these.
Yeah, it wasn't just
brain.
physical strength. It was like that hair was given cardio points for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
100%.
I don't know what life lesson I'm supposed to take from that, but my wife cheated in Uno one time, and I feel like I've got some killing to do.
Kill her family.
But did you murder all of her Facebook friends?
Yeah, that's really
Not yet.
But
All
then
of
you,
her
but
acquaint-
after that, to really good at, you got to murder the friends and people you may know of their friends.
She's not on Facebook. I'm
Like
in
the
trouble.
suggested follows on Twitter. You got to get them.
It's true.
If we're looking for a new topic, I've outlined a little Bible tale for us. It's been a hot second.
Oh, I'd
since
love
we've
that.
done
What
one of those.
what are you going to regale us with today, Taylor?
I was gonna do Easter, but I wanted to do something a little less common knowledge. And so, are either of you familiar with the tale of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego?
And Abednego.
Wait, say it again.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yep,
Yes.
it's
Kyle
yeah.
does know it.
I went to church.
Yeah, no, I legit thought he made up an eeny, meeny, miny, mo type of thing.
No, go to Daniel 3-6. I think is where. Yeah, I know because I reread it.
Please
little
don't
bit
tell
ago,
me the
so I
story, and I
remember.
just disappointed my parents.
Yeah, no, and your parents, Mr. and Mrs. Woody's parents. I dare you to find one thing wrong with this. One factoid wrong with this. So basically, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, 3 Jews hanging out in the Old Testament. And this is one of the many times that the Jews or the state of Israel was just getting, or maybe Judah at the time, I don't fucking remember. They were just getting butt fucked by whatever powerful people there were at the time. There were the Babylonians, like Assyrians, like all throughout the ages. This was a Babylon time. And so they were under the thumb of King Nebuchadnezzar, the original Chad. And King Nebuchadnezzar he had his hanging gardens of Babylon. Like they were the most powerful empire in the world, in their known world at the time. And he had all this dope shit. And he had so much extra gold sitting around that he was like, you know, it would be tight. I'm going to build a 90-foot solid gold statue of like myself or some like guy who's kind of like me there, or some, you know, god. They don't even like really say what it was. And so he built some dope ass statue, gold, 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide. And I looked that up. That's like 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. Like a cubit is apparently like 1.5 feet.
Okay.
So this is a lot of gold. It's a real flex on the rest of the world. And so he builds this, and he's so stoked on it that he invites all of his, I don't remember all the words, I read them down, all of his officials from the kingdom, governors, senators, satraps, I assume some kind of mayor, judges, treasurers, everybody from every corner of the Babylonian kingdom, all the high-ranking, you know, hullabaloo people show up. And they're like, you're right, King Nebuchadnezzar, this is really cool. And he's like, it doesn't stop here, guys. Anytime you hear music from, and I'll read this list, I'll just read what the town crier said. Nation and people of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of the gold king Nebuchadnezzar. And so, first of all, pretty sure a lot of those instruments are made up. And so he sends all the governors and everybody back. They relay that same message. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they weren't just like 3 random Jews walking around the street in like shitty ass sandals. They had like not the overruling part of a province, but they were like a couple levels down. They still had nice houses, nice shit. Like they weren't in poverty or anything. And pretty much immediately, as soon as this town crier said that, he added an addendum, which Nebuchadnezzar also instructed, where he's like, and make sure they also know anybody who doesn't bow down as soon as all these made up instruments start going, they're going to be brought back to me. They're going to be brought in front of me, and I'm going to burn them alive in a really cool big furnace I also made. And believe it or not, that was compelling to most people. That got them on board. And so as soon as they heard the zither and the lyre, boom, right down, like almost like Mecca. They're like, even if you can't see it from whatever province they're in, they're like, I'm not risking some ancient cop finding me and ratting me out. I'm aiming right there and praying to Nebuchadnezzar. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego say, fuck you. They don't say, fuck you. They say, no, thanks. No, thank you. Their overseer goes to King Nebuchadnezzar, goes, hey, Neb. Neb goes, don't call me that. He goes, I understand. He goes, King Nebuchadnezzar, these 3 Jews, they're not bowing down. Did you tell him about the furnace thing? Yes, I led with the furnace thing. Of course I told you. Of course I led with it, you brilliant king. And so Nebuchadnezzar is like, okay, well, bring them to me. Bring them to me. As far as I can tell, they're doing a good job on paper, but if they're not going to do what I want, bring them here. So he brings them there, and he tells them, hey, and King Nebuchadnezzar is like in the opposite situation of like a rock and a hard place. He's between like tits and ass. No matter which way he goes, it's positive. If they show up and they say, I'm not bowing down, he gets a handful of tit, so to speak, where he gets to throw them in the furnace, burn them alive, and ensure that everybody's like, yeah, that bitch is not playing. He will burn you alive, bow. Or if they do what he wanted them to do, nice handful of ass, and they bow down, it's a little ego stroke where he's like, yeah, all it really took was them seeing me in my glory for them to bow down and do it.
All right.
And so they show up. He says, bow down, or you're going in the furnace. No other options. They say, I will not bow down. No, I'm not bowing down. No, that's not my God. I'm not bowing down to your false idol or whatever the fuck. And he goes like probably a little like kind of like happy about it, like, okay, time to break in the furnace. But he tells his furnace guy first, he goes, turn it up 7 times as hot as normal. And in my head, I'm thinking like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego at this time were kind of relieved, where they're like, oh, he said 7. 7's one of those numbers that works out well. God, if he had said turn it up twice as hot, I would have shit myself. But 7, we should be okay. Thank God. And so Nebuchadnezzar, well, 7 is a biblical number. Like, it's all
you see it a lot.
Oh, you're talking to me, you I know that.
Yeah. Things happen in 7s all the time in the Old Testament and in the New. And so Nebuchadnezzar wasn't just content with normal soldiers tying him up, because he's brought some of his governors and satraps and people to see this whole thing because he thinks it's cool. It is cool. And he brings out his most burly, ripped soldiers to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And then he tells them, throw them in the fire. And he says that the fires were so hot that when they went to open the furnace to throw the 3 Jews in, that the men throwing them in themselves died. And so he wasted a bunch of juicy man muscle just in trying to get his point across, which I wouldn't have done. I would have used worthless soldiers, but what do I know? I'm no Neb. And so he throws them in there, and he's sitting on his cool gold throne, the extra gold that was left over from the statue, just kind of watching. And I guess there's a fucking window in this furnace that you can kind of see what's going on. And so after a couple minutes, he's like, what? I see. How many Jews do we? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Was there another one? They got goofy ass names. Was there? There's 4 people standing in there right now. Well, don't take them out yet, because even if it is their god, maybe he'll run out of magic, and they'll eventually burn. You know, like maybe he can only stave off the flames for so long. So he leaves them in there a couple more minutes to simmer. Becomes clear God's not going to run out of magic, and so he goes, "Take those guys out of there. Take them out of there." And so he opens up the furnace. The three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego come out totally unscathed. It says they don't even smell of fire.
Are they naked?
Don't even smell like they've been there. No, their clothes were fine too. And so they all come out, and all the governors, the satraps, everybody's there. They're looking. And so King Nebuchadnezzar has to pull a World War II Italy, where they switch sides, and pretend they've been on that side the entire time. And so he goes, wow, your guys' God is really cool. I'm on board. You guys don't have to worship this statue. Everyone, we are keeping the statue. It looks awesome. We don't have to pray to it, but you're not getting, we're not getting rid of it. That's fine. You go in the furnace. You're not protected by their God. We're keeping the statue. Does anyone not want to keep the statue? We're keeping the fucking statue. And so he keeps the statue. And then also he's talking to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and being like, wow, your God's like legit real. My gold statue didn't do anything but shine brightly. And so he asks them about their God. They kind of have a little back and forth. And then because King Nebuchadnezzar still has to appear hardcore, he goes, all right, we're all following the Jewish God now. And anyone in my kingdom who questions the Jewish God, I will have you and your family cut to pieces and your homes razed to the ground. And everybody's like, 40 minutes ago, we were talking about the statue. And so everybody unanimously is like, yeah, whatever you say, dude, we're all on board with the Jewish God. I don't want to get cut to pieces. And then to end it all, he gives Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego a raise and a promotion. So what did we learn?
Hopefully we're fireproof.
I was hoping for insight because I didn't learn anything. Nothing at all. At all.
It's a little similar to David in the lion pit, you know? I
David
feel
in the
like
Lion's Den, yeah.
I feel like they just recycled that one at some point.
You know, they probably did.
I mean, if you think about it, they're like identical stories, right? Except you got lions instead of fire.
You think that like one scribe or whatever prophet back in the day was writing that, and his scribe's like, oh, this is very similar. I'm British. This is very similar to David in the Lion's Den. He's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Name 10 similarities.
I like to think the teacher handed out a project, and she's like, no group projects. You guys can't. Did you guys work together on yours?
Mine's got lions.
Mine's got a cool statue and a king named Nebuchadnezzar.
We should run both through one of those like plagiarism checkers they use in colleges now.
Yeah,
see if anyone
gets
busted.
That would be funny. If it's like Jeremiah ripped all of his shit from like Leviticus.
It's like that year that the two Deep Impact and Armageddon came out the same year.
Yeah,
you're like, wait a fuck, what? What? Well, in ours, the asteroid hits. All right.
What I've learned the most is the more like I read these Old Testament stories, and like I've got a couple more stories outlined for the future. I just like doing them in our Just Us Girls chats. Is I'm not learning anything. I'm not learning any morals, any sort of compass for my life for most of these stories.
Really?
It's really just like.
Come on, you get it though, right? You do get it.
I get that you're supposed to praise this God.
No, it's about faith under fire, literally.
Yeah, but that's
it's trusting funny. God no matter what. And
in
God
real life,
will,
that doesn't work at all.
And you become a martyr.
Lots of people get cancer and they pray to God and they believe just as much as these fucks.
Well, that was part of God's plan.
Yeah, that's a convenient out.
That's the truth. Question it and you could burn too.
I just feel like if I had put my faith in God instead of my reserve parachute 2 months ago, this show would be down one host.
Yeah, dude, if the afterlife is real...
And that would have been God's plan.
If the afterlife is real,
praise his name.
Fucking St. Peter next to the pearly gates is going to pull up one of the many YouTube compilations you listeners have made of my Bible stories, and I'm going straight to hell. So thanks for that. Thanks for that. But it's not real, so don't worry about it.
That's the lesson.
I'm like 99% sure.
Yeah. If it is,
are you 100%? Or because I'm only like 99%.
No, I would say I'm like high 90s%. But if I die and it turns out it's real, poof, I am not going to be pleased.
Me either. And if you think about it, you wouldn't risk like how do the seatbelts work in your car? It says high 90s. 90, 93, 94% of the time they work. Not really. Doesn't that concern you? Like, aren't you always worried about it every time you get behind the wheel? No.
Not really. I mean, that like they taught us that in school as like an argument to believe in God. It was called Pascal's wager. And it was, if you believe in God and it doesn't exist, you haven't lost anything. If you believe in God and he does exist, you go to heaven. If you don't believe in God and he doesn't exist, nothing happens. If you don't believe in God and he doesn't exist, you go to hell. So it was like, well, mathematically, you should believe in God. And my thought even then was like, he's gonna know I'm faking it. Like he's gonna know that I'm only doing it out of fear of not going to hell. And like,
He's
that's not
okay
enough
with
to get
that.
into heaven. I don't think so.
Based on what I've read, he seems pretty okay with scaring people into worshiping him.
Yeah, Old Testament God was much more into the fear. Jesus was a little nicer, but Jesus also did, well, not even mean, funny stuff like whip people and when they were like using his, like the Pharisees and Sadducees were using the church as a bartering ground and trading and financial place instead of using it as a worship place. He just goes in there and starts cracking the whip on all these Pharisees and overturning their tables. That was fun.
Yeah,
good for him. I liked that.
Yeah, that was a good scene. I brought that up in my my drug class in prison. I don't remember how. Yeah. The teacher was an absolute moron, and he brought up something like he'd get like really stuck in the mud with the conversations. Like he'd start arguing with us, and we knew how to just like drag him down into the mud, so he didn't get to teach us anything. And something came up about something came up. I don't remember where it came from, but he was just like, Jesus would never did anything violent. Jesus was all about peace. And I'm like, what about the time he whipped all those guys? He's like, what are you talking about? The time he went to where the tax collectors were in the temple and he whipped the shit out of those people and turned their tables over. He's like, oh, well, those were Jews. And I went,
you said that?
I think I just won. I looked around. It was just 3 white guys and 8 black guys. And I was like, shit, none of them are here to complain about this. Damn it.
I mean, they were Jews, but they weren't just Jews. They were Pharisees. And Sadducees, like the bad kind of religious people that were just manipulating the Old Testament into making money.
Are you saying also, like, Jews are the bad kind because they make money?
No, the
Pharisees were the bad kind.
Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Jesus was so against them.
I choose to believe you said that.
And also, like he said, Jesus never did anything violent. There's literally in Matthew a verse that says, I bring not peace, but a sword.
Well,
this guy didn't know his fucking Bible.
That was a metaphor.
Not the way I do. Even better than Woody's parents.
And if they want to dispute that.
No joke, I think they're in Israel right now.
That is so fucking funny.
They're like, they're getting extra lessons straight from the source right now.
Wait, I would Israel?
Yeah,
so, like, they go walk around Jerusalem. Does she not know that like people in Israel aren't Christians?
I don't understand.
Most of them aren't.
Why it's so cool, but yeah, that's like their favorite place to vacation now. They go to Israel probably more than once a year. They call me. If they're not in Israel right now, then they just came home.
I wonder, do they have like nice beaches and stuff there? Like they're right on the Mediterranean.
But that's not what they're doing. They're like taking camels and checking out Moses' 40-mile walk or something like that.
Yeah, they do have nice beaches though. I've definitely seen them on the. Let me try to find a picture.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they have nude beaches.
Israel does? I figured they'd be way too conservative for that kind of thing.
I don't know.
I'll just look up Israeli nude beaches. Let's see.
Where can I sunbathe nude in Israel? You go to Masada.
I'm pretty sure like even shit like porn isn't legal in Israel.
There you go, nudist beach at the. Oh, I found a YouTuber.
Nudist beach at Dead
heading
Sea?
to the nude beach on the Dead Sea in Israel.
The Dead Sea's in Israel.
And she's naked.
For some reason, I thought it was in like Eastern Europe or something. Like,
was this uploaded September 23rd, 2015?
Sure was.
We're on the same video.
You're gonna want to skip on forward to when she gets naked. She blurs everything, but I'm still pleased. She's got some of that Dead Sea mud. She's rubbing it on her face, like war paint.
Oh, she's got a tattoo. Big no in Judaism. Well, and Christian
anyway,
too, I guess.
Yeah, definitely nude beaches in Israel. Yeah.
Well, the more you know.
The more you know.
The Dead Sea is somewhere that would be.
Let
really
your mom
cool to
know.
go.
Yeah. She might have gone to the nude beaches. You don't know.
Yeah, your parents, I wouldn't put it past them.
Nothing
They'd be
wrong
like,
with it.
right?
We're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm not
hike the Sinai Desert Trail.
going to
And then we're
Masada.
gonna
And
get
then we're gonna get our
fucking-
freak on
yeah.
because
Yeah,
that's
then
how
we're
Woody's
gonna get
parents
laid.
go. They just
Is
Oh,
Masa-
yeah, fuck me. Oh, this is right where Abraham almost killed Isaac.
is Masada the one where the Israelis held out against the Romans for like a long time and then they suicided at the end so the Romans could claim no victory?
I don't know. Is this a Bible story or is this
Yeah.
like in the middle area, like where the Maccabees were?
Well, I don't know my Bible that well, but I thought that was the story of Masada.
Masada. It would make sense because Mossad's like they're CIA, so it makes sense they name it after something like that.
I don't. Well, that's the Mossad. I don't know if that's. I mean, maybe.
Masada.
I don't know.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
say
that's what happened.
Mossad, I
yeah.
say Masada.
So,
Let's call the whole thing up. No.
let's see. Yeah, in 66 AD, Masada was a Roman garrison. A group of Jewish extremists overcame it and settled there. In the next several years, more people joined them, and then there was a siege led by Lucius Flavius Silva in 72 AD. It lasted about 2 to 3 months, and it culminated in the construction of a siege ramp and tower to try to get at them. But it seems like 960 Israelis held out for like a really long time, like over a year or something like that. And at the end, they did like a mass suicide so that like the Romans could claim no victory.
That's a really cool story. I can't believe I've never read about this. That
might be a fun one.
Also like what'd you say? Flavius fucking whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Romans had cool names.
Sick fucking names.
Why can't we bring that back?
Black people have. I went to school with an Octavius.
Okay. Well, was his Octavius Flavius Caesar or whatever?
No,
or just
no. He's
No.
dead now. He's dead now. And his that